Welcome back to your emotional support comedian, where we take the chaos of our lives and try and make it comedic, but also in a way that keeps us mentally well. I'm Julie Story, if you don't know, and I am known for making comedic skits on the internet, but I'm also going through it. And as somebody who has been through it before, I really wanted to create a space where I could see other people talking honestly about dealing with mental health and struggles and trying to make it through a week without crashing out in the Target parking lot, okay? And that is harder now for me than it has been in the past, just because I have been through the last 5 months, which has been brutal. I've been talking about this a lot in the last couple podcasts and YouTube videos about what it's like to not only go through something, but to grow through it, to be healing through it, and then also accepting that that's actually happening. And last episode, I was describing it like the acceptance that I'm actually going through something feels a lot like how it feels to put pants on a toddler. I am kicking and screaming because this is definitely not what I want to go through. I think that when I thought about my life in this point in my life, I really wanted it to be very rom-com-y. You know, like I wanted to be in a cute little dress having brunch, not crashing out in my kitchen because the stuff that I have survived in my life has been so dramatic that I am jealous of other people who've never had to go through it. And that is exactly what happened today. I'm going to answer your questions and I'm going to fill you in on what's happening right now in my life because I want to show the whole journey. There is such a common theme when women go through something that we often see the Cinderella on the other side of the story and like, yeah, she looks fabulous and we love a blue dancing ball gown. But the journey to get there isn't often shared. And I feel it's so important to show the messy middle because it allows us and our experiences to not feel so alone. And that is something that I've experienced a lot in my life. I didn't realize how much loneliness I really had wrestled with until I sat down and actually wrote a memoir, which I'm in the process right now of trying to find an agent. And as a sidebar, okay, hold on to my loneliness. We're going to go on a little sidebar, okay? The process of writing a book and putting your little toes in the world of trying to find an agent, it is insanely difficult for me. I don't know if this is everyone's experience. For me, it is like I am fighting demons and dragons because I have written books in the past and I've gone through this process in the past. I actually wrote a novel and I could not get an agent and there was so much rejection and so much shame that was associated with I was doing something new. I had never written a novel before and I put myself out there and it failed. And now I reframe that and see it differently because that writing experience made me a better writer and it actually assisted me in even the comedic skits that I perform now because everything that you see online, I'm either improvising or I sit down and kind of write it out quickly before I actually create the skit. Most of the skits that you see online are all improv. It's just off the top of my head, but that's all writing. And I have had experience ghostwriting. I actually used to be a ghostwriter and helping women build businesses. And so I've written a lot in my life. But to get to this point in this process of a memoir where I've literally cracked open my soul and I have shared the depths of myself in a way that I feel like is so important. It's absurdly hilarious and completely relatable. And now taking those steps to ask somebody to believe in me and believe in this book is really intimidating and it's really hard. And so I just have been fighting for my life. I'm trying to do so much at the same time while conquering things that are new. And is it new or is it hard? Which my husband said to me, I told you guys this, and I'm like, that needs to be on a sweatshirt, which I will design it. But it's also annoying that he said that because it's so emotionally mature. And you're right, is it hard or is it new? But also just going down that road of doing that means that I have to confront a lot of rejection that I've experienced in my life. And it feels like I'm entering a space that's so new and I'm also feel like so exposed because I'm like, I don't want to be rejected again. And I feel like that's a really common relatable experience, but like for me it feels I'm the only one. Everybody else just shows up and gets like deal handed to them and I'm struggling to even put this together. So I did it, but that process of writing the book, I realized that a lot of my experiences emotionally were grief, like cosplaying as loneliness and really wrecking internal spaces like Regina George screaming with the burn book. There's a lot of that going on inside. So this process of sitting down on my story was super therapeutic, and I feel like it's one of those things that if you're able to do it, I feel like it's a really beautiful thing, even if it never gets published out to the world. But honoring your story, the highs and lows of it, and seeing who you are through the beautiful journey that you've walked through, I feel like it's just like a really sacred, beautiful experience. And with that sacred, beautiful experience, I'm asking somebody else to come along this journey with me, and that is super intimidating. But I'm doing all of that in the middle of trying to heal from crisis, and I feel like I get stuck sometimes in this like boss girl energy that is not a good part. There's a girl boss in me that was formed from trauma and from people shaming me for not being good enough and not doing enough and not getting myself together enough and not succeeding enough. And there's just like this TJ Maxx like 16 by 24, on the wall that just says, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, inside my brain. Okay. But I feel that in my internal space. I feel that in my physical space. And all of those things have high-fived into chaos in my brain. And it has caused a lot of wrestling, a lot of wrestling in there. And trying to make sense of all that while healing and, dealing with things that I never dealt with in my 20s. I'm in my late 30s now. And so dealing with these different things from my past, these ghosts that have haunt me, I call the world of the emotions in my mind, I kind of describe it like a haunted house. There's a haunted house living inside of me, and the hauntings are just me haunting myself with all the different trauma and all the things I've gone through, and a lot of emotions that cosplay as each other, and a lot of times I don't know what's going on. And so I have been sharing that journey publicly, and I'm like, guys, ask me anything. Like, I will tell you anything. I want you guys to know that in the hilarity of telling stories, at the same time, there's also seances going on inside of my brain and my world at any given time, because when trauma is is living inside of your nervous system like a haunted house, you get scared and spooked randomly and triggered like whenever it wants to. One of the things that has helped me survive the trauma of my life has actually been makeup and beauty. It's been an escape for me. For me, makeup has not been a mask, but makeup has been my muse. I have used it as a way to connect to myself as an artist and to celebrate myself in a way that is self-care feeling for me. And that's not how it is for everyone, but for me it has been. And so I started doing hair and makeup when I was 13, and I started doing it every single day, and I was homeschooled, and so I was extremely lonely. I was so lonely, and I had to find ways to help me feel okay, and doing makeup and hair was one of them. And so finding colors and styles of wearing makeup. I'm a cool tone palette or a neutral palette, and so finding those colors that really suit me made me feel more like myself in the middle of all of this chaos. And we're in the middle of the wild chaos of trying to be okay, and you're like clutching your waterproof mascara. It's like it's a infinity stone. This is gonna save my life today. I just need you to work for me. It feels amazing to do something every day that connects you and grounds you to yourself. I do this full time. I'm a full-time content creator, full-time comedic writer, and I love what I do. It's so interesting. It's so exciting and thrilling for me. It is challenging when I'm not doing well mentally, because since I do run my own business, it's dependent upon me to exist. I was talking a little bit about this on Instagram and TikTok this week about how when you're creating in the way that I am, like it's really important that you center giving and not getting. That girl boss inside of me is like the queen of getting, and I have to sit her down and shut her up because she creates this inner turmoil. And I didn't realize it this week, but one of the things that is really triggering for me, and I've never heard anyone talk about this before, is something that triggers my depression and anxiety is feeling overwhelmed with all of the things that I want to do, and I want to keep up with other people that have maybe a staff or they have other people producing content. For me, I am a one baddie show right now, and that's fine. It works right now, and hopefully I'll be in a place where soon that I can have a team of people jumping in. But I can't operate at the team level production if I am one person. And so it was really overwhelming this week to kind of feel like the girl boss like looming over my shoulder. And I had to sit in the discomfort of her voice in order to recognize that her voice wasn't mine. And this is like the weirdest thing about being self-aware, is when you start to understand and recognize what these feelings inside, what they're saying, and where it's coming from. That voice came from someone else, and it just so happens that voice is stuck inside my brain cosplaying as this version of this girl boss who is not helpful at all. And what it does for me is it stifles my creative energy, and it is really exhausting. And I feel like that this concept can be really relevant in other spaces of the way that we make choices in our life and or see our life. Because when we have another voice inside of us that is pressuring us to be more, make more, that you're not enough, all those things, it feels like so debilitating. It doesn't feel inspiring. It doesn't feel creatively thrilling and interesting. It feels like you are being weighted down by an energy. Like it's not supporting your goals, it's not supporting your creativity, it's not supporting your dreams, it's not going to make you happy. This idea of I need to do more to be worthy. And I think it's really easy with social media and seeing everyone else doing what they're doing. It can feel really easy to look at other people and not realize like our biggest competition is ourselves. And so I had to sit with myself this week, crashing out on my laundry chair, recognizing the voice that was speaking and understanding that that's not actually my voice and that's not actually what I want. What I want to do is I want to give, and I want to give happily, and I want to create happily. And every single thing that I have built that has meant something to you and meant something to me has been built from me having the best time. I've decided that I want to create from a place of being happy and thriving, and not from a place of I need to get something. I want to create from a place that is fueled, but I want to give something. And so in order to do that, I have to be in the best place that I can be. And some days that means that I don't make a video, which right now I'm filming 2 or 3 videos a day. I'm posting sometimes 2 or 3 videos a day. And for me, that works and it feels great and it's amazing. However, there are some days when if I'm just like emotionally tapped out, I don't create because I never want to exploit my creative energy. And so again, like that's just something that I wish I had heard along the way, especially being a creative and somebody that is giving so much. Like this particular career path means that I am giving so much of myself to a beautiful community that we're building together. And that means I have to be really careful about the sacredness of taking care of myself, because I can't give from an empty cup. And sometimes, you know, on really bad days, I really need to create. It is what gives me an escape, and it's what fuels me and gives me this beautiful space to play and feel better. And sometimes I have to stop because I am just like emotionally exhausted. And it's challenging. It's challenging because since it is only me, it's easy to get stuck in my head. It's easy to overanalyze and overthink. And it's very easy to trip into that place where I'm looking at other people instead of looking at myself and validating, give myself credit for what I have done. And what's interesting about this past week is like I crashed out because I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And I have been doing a podcast, doing YouTube channels, doing makeup tutorials, doing 2 or 3 skits every day. I wrote a memoir. I'm writing queries and summaries, and I am doing a lot. But the girl boss was like, you really could be doing more. And I'm like, this is not it. We're not going to do this. But I think it's really important to acknowledge the fact that even when you are doing your best, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have moments where you feel pressure to do more. And that's the real truth. Like, you're going to feel pressure sometimes to do more. And it's either, you're either going to listen to that or not. And sometimes for me, I sometimes listen to it until I crash out. And then the frustrating thing for me in dealing with kind of like the last 5 months and then taking care of my mental health has been acknowledging, like I was talking about, like acknowledging that I have to accept that this is my life, and part of the acceptance is that other people don't have the trauma that I've experienced. They haven't been stuck in survival mode for the last 20 years of their life. And so they've been able to get further in their life and, you know, their personal goals and their relationships than I have because they haven't been having to just survive their life. They have been thriving. They didn't have various moments where people invaded their world and made a mess. And it has been really interesting to sit in the messes that people have made in my life and been able to give myself my voice back in this memoir, even because I have finally named them in a way that feels good to me. And I am so curious if you guys want me to do a little tour of the villains in my life in what I've named them and kind of go over some of the choices that they've made. I'm sure they would hate this. Like, I often think about these people who have done horrific things. Like, I want you to imagine the villains in stories that pop into your mind. This is how these people have operated in my life. The most sinister, gaslighty, lying, like wild. And there's not like 2 or 3. I think I could easily come up with 15. Like, I feel like I could easily come up with 15 people. And I would describe them in the way that I see them as characters, because I definitely understand that with this amount of attention comes responsibility, and I would never want to send an army of people over to anywhere in their life. I'm centering myself in the story of them, you know, being a villain and taking responsibility for the part that I had in some of their craziness. And some of that is just the lack of boundaries, like I've talked about in other episodes, lack of boundaries that were not operating in my life and how they all benefited from that and what that felt like. But it is so freeing to finally feel like I have my voice back and I'm not afraid of them, you know, DMing me or saying anything, because the way that I have so much to say, like, please send me a DM, please do, because it will only add to the blissful moment of having my voice back and saying, if you don't want people to say bad things about you, don't do bad things. And that is right from Taylor Swift. Like, if you do not want your reputation to be something that ends up in someone's memoir where a person takes a horrific villain and calls you that instead of your actual name, you could just choose to do right. And it's not even like me dramatizing like what these people did. It is so absolutely insane. Like, and I'm not just saying that as someone who's dramatic, because I am dramatic. The way that my therapist has literally like sat back in her chair when I have told her about these people, and I'm like, where do these people come from? I don't know if y'all have this many people who have been this. I wish that I could not. Please go on your way somewhere else. Now they are, because I have boundaries and I'm not letting those type of people in my life anymore. But man, it took me late 20s, early 30s before I completely evicted all of these people that have left remnants. So I was telling you before that I'm starting EMDR therapy, and I had to fill out those worksheets last night. And How EMDR works is that you do it with a certified therapist, and it is a different type of therapy than cognitive behavioral therapy. And on this channel, we talk about therapy a lot. I know a lot of different types of therapy. Ask me how I know. Okay, so I've been doing CBT therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is talk therapy, but I have a trauma-informed therapist, so when I talk to her about stuff, she gives me practical things I can do with my body so that my nervous system doesn't think I'm being chased by a dinosaur when I'm just having a boundary setting conversation, okay? But EMDR is kind of like another level of therapy where you have to write a list of all of the traumatic things that have happened to you that have like bothered you, so a distressing event, and they called a timeline. I'm at the beginning. So I sat yesterday, I wrote out 10 pages 10 pages of distressing or traumatic events, and I don't know how many are on each page. I think it might be 10. So I have 100 traumatic, distressing events that have happened to me by age 38. And I realize and recognize that if nothing else, I am going to take what has happened to me. I'm going to make it make sense. I'm going to make fun of it, because if trauma is going to haunt the hallways of my house, I'm going to call her out, make fun of her, and also I'm going to give her ugly outfits in my memoir. Okay, maybe her outfits aren't ugly. I think she's wearing a crop top in some of the scenes. But if I have had to deal with this in my life, I am going to make it make sense. And part of the ways making it make sense to me is talking about it here, because my goodness, if I had heard somebody like me 10 years ago having a conversation like this, my jaw would be on the ground, because I was desperate. Oh my God. In the middle of one of the most horrific relationships, not romantic relationships. My husband has been amazing. Like, my husband is literally the most incredible person, and he just started posting on social media because he's a brilliant genealogist. Oh my gosh, go watch his video. I'll put a link below. He's a storyteller too, but he is incredible at genealogy and finding family history. And the way this man has found out so much tea about my family history, my goodness, there's so much delicious tea. But he's telling stories about people's family history, and he helps people find out more about their family history, because there are a lot of things that help us move forward and can really bring perspective on our lives when we know where we came from. But anyway, I was in the middle of this horrific relationship with this person, and the way that she backstabbed me in a way that was so diabolical, like, I cannot even articulate the pain and suffering that this person inflicted on me. I remember this one moment where part of her villainous behavior was lying, and lying is a hot button for me. It can tolerate a lot of things, but if you are going to lie intentionally on purpose, it really rubs me the wrong way. And I was going through something really, really hard, and so I texted her for support. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. I feel so alone. I was kind of grieving the loss of some other friends that were mutual friends in our life, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so heartbreaking for me, and I am devastated that I'm going through this. Like, it just was like one of those moments where you just needed a friend. And it turns out she was lying about a lot of things, and the reason that pain was happening in my life, that I was going to her to process and like, hey, I need support. Friend of mine, I trust you in my life. The pain that I was processing, she actually had caused it, and she knew she had caused it, and she performed niceness. She performed niceness while stabbing me in the back. Like, she hugged me, and then that's when she put the knife in, and it is so perplexing to have these experiences with people. You just wonder, like, are you okay? And obviously they're not. I feel like I would never intentionally want to harm. My empathy is so high that I just am like, I would never want to intentionally harm someone. And if I found out that I hurt someone's feelings, like, I am devastated. It is like a sucker punch to me if I even just like accidentally hurt someone's feelings. And so the way that some of these people were able to watch me suffer and be devastated, but they were the ones that were causing it, and that they chose to perform a role that wasn't actually the truth. it was really hard to trust anyone. It still is really hard to trust people now. I remember sitting with a therapist and I'm like, how am I gonna have friends again? She was like, okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just start with, we're not gonna worry about that. We are just gonna start with getting you better. Like, this was years ago, but like, that is what I mean when I talk about these diabolical villains in my life. Yeah, I love focusing on what is our color palette and what makeup we're wearing and like what lip gloss, because that is what's getting me through this. Like, that is literally like, how do you recover from backstabbing friends who, there are more stories. God, I wish that was the only one. I wish it was the only one. Another one that stands out to me was I was going through a really horrific time during the rain season, which I talk about this a lot. I almost feel like there needs to be like a Julie dictionary so that if you're new here, you're like, you're talking about the rain. What does that mean? Does that mean literal rain? No, it means a season of my life where I was going through one of the most traumatic things I've ever experienced in my life. We're in the middle of the Wilt season, just to like give you a little timeline. Okay, we went through the rain season. I didn't have another name season since the rain, and now we're in the middle of the Wilt season, which is a different energy. But the rain season was horrible, and I remember I had this event at my house. It was like a little brunch thing, and there's like all these girls there, and I remember feeling brave enough to be vulnerable with my story and kind of share like a little bit about what was going on. I was like, hey, so I'm in the middle of the worst time that I've ever been in my life. And I shared, it was in my house, it was in my space. I'd spent a couple days getting the house ready and like getting everything ready for all the girls to come over. I feel like I'm really good at opening up, and so I feel like it kind of paves the way for other people to feel comfortable. And so I was like, I will share what's going on with me. And I didn't realize that I had built these expectations for other people based around how I handle people and my emotional intelligence, and I accidentally imposed upon this group of people my level of capacity for handling other people's pain. I'm gonna pause there because I really want you to hear that, because I didn't learn this lesson until very recently, that not everybody in your life, even if they're friends, have the emotional intelligence or the emotional capacity to hold space for your pain. And that does not mean that they're bad people. It means that they're not the right ones to ask to carry you, because not everybody has the emotional muscles to be able to get your back. I know. Again, like, I hate to be the one that gets to tell you this, but I also love to be the one that gets to tell you this, because maybe it will prevent you from the pain that I've been through, which is part of the reasons why I talk like this, because I don't want you to feel the pain and frustration of hoping that somebody can catch you that doesn't have the muscles for it. I have finally realized that when I walk into a space, I am an emotional intelligence Olympian. And that's the only way that I have like found. Maybe there's another word I'll land on later, but like, I have gold medals in being able to deal with things. And so when people come to me, I know how to hold space for them. I know how to move with somebody slowly. I know how to sit in their suffering. I know how to not rush their pain. I know how to help them feel safe. And I am really good at that. I've had a lot of experience in it, and I've also been through a lot of therapy. Not everybody is an Olympian, okay? You hear me here? Okay, so I think it's really important that before you open up to a lot of people with an expectation of them being able to catch you, and whatever that means for you, sometimes, just being caught is just like, somebody listening. For me, catching me is very, very specific, and it looks a certain way because I've been through so much, so I need a different strength than what maybe might come naturally to someone if they haven't been through quite as much. And that is okay. We're all at different levels. We all have a different range of abilities, and it's totally okay. But I think imposing expectations of someone's ability on them when they're not able to isn't the move. And sometimes that means that we have to ask people, are you in a position where you are able to hold space for me? This is another one that I learned way late. Just because you are going through something and you want to like call your bestie or call whoever and be like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. It is a good idea to just quick check. Are you in a place where you're able to hold space for me right now. Because sometimes somebody that we love in our life might be going through it and we don't know what they're going through, and like unloading on them might be too much. And so asking permission to be like, hey, like, do you have the ability to catch me right now because I'm falling, and giving them that permission to say yes or no. And also it's kind of like that question where if you're talking to somebody or someone's talking to you and you say like, do you want to vent or do you want my opinion, and then you respond in whatever they need, because sometimes people just want to vent and that's totally cool. Like, girl, spill the tea. I am here for the tea. Which, by the way, I heard this week that therapists are just gossip doctors, and honestly, did I choose the wrong career? Because the way I want to be a gossip doctor, please put your gossip in the comments, or just send me a DM, because I want to hear all the tea. But we need to allow ourselves to recognize that sometimes our expectations of people are actually misguided based on ourselves and based on what we think that somebody should be able to do, when in reality, they might not have the skill to do that. And also they might not be in an emotional position to be able to do that at this time. And so there I was sharing everything in the middle of that moment, and I was dropped. And the way that dropped looked like for me in that moment was nobody checked on me after or called me that week or really acknowledged what was going on. And I think why that stood out was because there was somebody else that was going through something that was a little bit more, in my opinion, a little bit more like a paper cut compared to the dumpster fire that I was in. And it didn't mean that it wasn't painful. It just, it didn't land the same way in terms of like gravity and impact on that person's life. The next time of our girls thing, and she's like, I just want to thank everyone so much for reaching out. So many people reached out to me and texted me and asked me how I was doing about my paper cut, and I died right there. Yeah, right inside my soul. I died because I felt like completely unseen. And I think, you know, one of the things that I've experienced a lot in my life is because I am very composed and I'm very articulate and I'm confident, that it portrays to other people that I'm totally okay. And so what that means is like, I can say with my words, I'm at a 10 on a 10 scale, 10 being I'm hooked up in the emotional ICU, and most people will hear it at a 2 because I'm not sobbing or I'm not displaying what people are used to seeing when somebody is breaking down. And it is one of those things that becomes a challenge when you have been through so much, because I can look at you and say, like, yesterday I was crashing out with a smile, and like, look at my glowy foundation now. Like, it doesn't fit, because it feels like, but you're fine. Like, look at you, listen to you. Like, yeah, but that fine is a different fine. Like, it's a different fine. It's a fine that's like, I'm going to resist and use the skills that I have to be resilient in spite of like the feelings that I'm experiencing. And sometimes that's a challenge because my face says I'm fine, but my internal world is not fine. And it's equally as challenging to know who is somebody that could catch me. And I'm recalibrating that and relearning that. And I'm exploring, you know, all these different new ways in which I'm doing boundaries and doing relationships and taking out expectations where I had them misguided and putting them where they should belong. And it's a beautiful experience, but it also has grief there, because that means I have to acknowledge the fact that I'm gonna walk into the room as an Olympian, and there are other people whose hardest days are not as challenging as some of the things that have happened to me. And that's okay, because it's not a pain comparing competition. Everybody's going through hard things. Everybody has been through really, really challenging things. And I think for a long time, I felt like I needed to, in some sense, really get it clear to people, because they weren't listening. Like, no, this is really bad. Like, please just hear me. It's really, really bad. And instead, now what I'm doing is I don't need anyone to acknowledge what I've been through. What I've been through is my story, and it's a beautiful story of resilience, because look at where I am now in spite of what happened to me. And I get to now have the strength and courage to open up in a space that gives other people language for maybe their suffering or their struggles, or allows people to not feel as alone. And that's a really beautiful thing that I get to do. And it's really needed and necessary. And this is not for everyone. Doing it this way is not for everyone, and that's okay. And we all have our past, but this is mine. And part of what got me here was going through everything that I've been through. And I think acknowledging that suffering and giving it names and dressing it up in outfits so that maybe it'll make sense more in a metaphor. Like maybe the haunted house will make more sense in metaphor, but I'm in the process of helping my internal house not be as haunted, and EMDR is part of the way I'm going to do that. And there's a lot of different ways that we can evict the ghosts from our house. But it is a journey. It is a journey for sure. And it is a journey to still show up even when it has been brutal. It is a journey to do that, because like I said, those girl bosses are in there. But yeah, I'm just really grateful that the stuff that we've been talking about here resonates with you. Your comments have been incredible. I'm so grateful that you guys are listening and feeling like you feel seen. And I know a lot of us are going through really similar things, and I just want to send you all the love. And one of the things that I realized in my journey that's so important as I've been going through it is to not forget what I've accomplished, and not forget how big of an accomplishment it really is to have a beautiful, soft heart when the world and people have been so hard. And that is an act of rebellion to other people's pain and suffering, that they have doubled it and served it to me on a platter. And even though I had to at times, choke it down, I'm showing up in a different way, and I'm showing up in a way that is giving to people and not trying to take from them and exploit from them. And that friend that stabbed me in the back, that person's no longer in my life. They will never be in my life ever again. I will not allow people who are treating other people like that around my sacred soul. Like, I won't do it. And it's not one of those things where it's like, well, people change and like forgive and forget. I feel like when somebody has been vicious and violated your trust in such a malicious way, to me, I don't wish harm on them. I don't think about this person. I just hope that they come across a mirror. That's my biggest hope for them. My biggest hope is that they come across a mirror, and that with that mirror, that they're brave enough to look in it and acknowledge the parts of themselves that they need to do work on. And I'm not going to be that person that holds up that mirror for them. That's not going to be me. And that is a really poetic, beautiful way of not putting up with it anymore. Like I used to feel like it was my responsibility to help the people that were dysregulated in my life and that were problematic. I used to feel like it was my responsibility to help them, and that they were dependent upon me and my skills and all these things in order to do right. And I look at my life and I look at the scars and wounds that I have from these people who have literally marked my nervous system so that I will have to struggle with what they did to me for the rest of my life. And hopefully not as loud after EMDR, but it has impacted me significantly. And I feel like I just don't want to give people that are willing to do that access to me, and I won't. And it's such a great feeling, because it's like, you know what? We all are responsible for how we manage our internal world, because it will leak out into the external world. And if you are finding that people that you love in your life are walking away, it might be some time for some self-reflection. But also, I've just learned that I no longer am waiting around for apologies from these villains. I don't think Scar in Lion King would ever apologize to Simba Of course, he was yeeted off of the cliff in the end, but I don't need anyone's apologies. I feel like if I got apologies at this point, especially as I'm growing and being more vocal and finding my voice back, I feel like it would only be because they're afraid. And I feel like, you know what? A little bit of healthy fear never hurt anyone. Right? Like a little bit of healthy fear never hurt anyone. I wouldn't be mad if suddenly, if they heard that, I don't know, I'm writing books and doing all those things, if they got a little bit anxious. I just feel like if you realize that the people that you harmed in private now have gotten their voice back and suddenly you're nervous about that, I do feel like it might be some time for some therapy. I mean, I'm just saying, but anyways, a little petty self coming through. But I am so grateful for you guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I am going to continue to be honest and share my story and crack jokes at it while we're in the process of it. I know that it is a very interesting duality to have a comedian be like, "Hey, so welcome to Emotional Support Comedian Podcast." But I am also starting a series called Emotional Support Makeup, where I'm doing makeup and telling more stories like the backstabbing villain who, and crashing out in parking lots and crashing out on couches. There's just a lot of crashing out, but I'm really grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment. It just means the world to me to hear that I'm not alone, because I selfishly want to know I can't be the only one going through stuff. I can't be the only one who is fighting for my life while trying to make it all happen, while trying to be like a baddie, business owner, mother, wife, like, and I'm trying to get my hot girl walks in while my heart is palpitating. It is a lot. There's a lot going on over here, but I'm really grateful for you guys, and thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you could subscribe and leave a comment, that would be great. It means the world to me. So anyway, I love you guys so much. I hope that you enjoyed this one. Thank you again so much, and we'll talk soon. Okay, bye!